This is just about the importance of taking risk and putting yourself out there, because you'll never know till you try it. And if you fail, try again or take another risk. That one might work out for you. Just live your life. Hi, I'm Miami and welcome back to my channel. So today's topic is going to be about the importance of taking risk. And my setup is ever so slightly different, but not enough that it really matters. I'm currently moving out of my old apartment. So I'm going to be having like a new change of scenery, which I think is very much needed, and just a fresh start. So I'm excited. It's definitely a lot of work on top of being in college full time and having to work and packing up an entire room. And my room is a lot more stuff than I guess took into account. But yeah, today's video is about the importance of taking risk. So this video is kind of just about wanting to move forward in life. The only way you're going to be able to make a lot of progress and move forward in life is by taking risk. And this may sound really biased, or not even biased, I don't even know the word for it, but may sound really maybe sad to some people, but the earlier you take risk in your life, the better. The earlier you do things you're scared to do, the better. Like, you could be so much further in your late 20s and early 30s, or even in your mid 20s if you take risk in your early 20s. And this isn't just about money and stuff. This is about life. So on the list of risks to take, number one, leaving. So this includes programs, relationships, schools, jobs, anything. A lot of the times we tend not to leave things, like whether that's a job, a relationship, because we fear there's not anything waiting for us on the other side of that. Like, I had a friend who actually, she got engaged really young. I think she was 19 when she got engaged. She's now 22, so it's been a few years, but she got engaged at 19, but the relationship was going south rapidly. I mean, there was one night he threw his phone, so she was standing here, say I'm standing here and you're him. He threw his phone past her head into the wall and broke his phone on the wall. And I remember she was calling me that night crying, and I was like, why don't you just leave? Now, mind you, I don't know how she feels. I don't know how she feels about him. I don't know what their history is, what could be happening to him that maybe she understands more than me. But I was like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? You'll be alone for a few months, maybe a year. Maybe that's what you need. And I realized, well, she did end up leaving after some of my advice, and she said, you're right, being alone for a while isn't that bad. And I was like, can be worse than having a guy throw his phone past your head into the wall right behind you over something dumb. Because I don't think there's anything that serious unless you cheated on him, which she didn't do. For him to throw his phone at the wall and smash, I just don't think that's necessary. But she ended up leaving, and she's just has time alone, but she is in the meantime gotten a very good job. She's been working out, taking care of her body, and she just looks overall more at peace and more happier, you know? I'm not saying that she wasn't happy at some point in that relationship, because she was. That's why taking the risk was so bad, because oftentimes in relationships, friendships, jobs, anything, you reflect on the good times even when they no longer exist. You'll reflect on the fact that, oh, well, there was one point where I was happy, but you haven't been happy for most of the relationship, and it's become violent. It's time to go. It's not gonna feel good. No. Leaving things that we put so much time and investments into never feels good. That's why it's so hard to do it. If it felt good, there wouldn't be the pains of letting go and the pains of growing. Those would not exist. You just leave and grow. Yeah, to leave. That is the first risk, is leaving. I've left friendships, everything. I've left a bunch of stuff just to be happier on the other side. I remember I left my best friend, and I never thought I'd find another best friend that I connected with that deeply. And now I do have one. It took a few years, but I do have and it was very unexpected how me and her became best friends, but I do have a best friend that I feel I relate to more, but in a different way. You know what I mean? Jobs too. I left a job that I was just using to get by to be stable, and I'm still currently searching for another job, but I've gotten open to other opportunities that aren't permanent, but they're paying well and I'm getting by. So I mean, yeah, leaving. The second risk is to be yourself. And this may sound really crazy. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story time. I always do. I just yaps. I mean, but I remember being younger, and this is first year of college. I had this friend who everybody compared me to. I mean, so much so that I caught myself trying to be more like her than I was myself, because we did have a lot in common, but I wasn't her, there was nothing wrong with that. I was, and I still am, genuinely an amazing person to be around, and I love who I am. But back then, when you have all these people, from men to women to like all these people saying that they just feel like she has the better personality and persona, it kind of makes you feel like, well, what am I doing that isn't better, isn't good, you know? And the bad part is when you find yourself comparing yourself to a friend, someone you're supposed to support and love. But yeah, more importantly, what got to me the most was her dating experience. At that point in my life, I had never been in like an actual relationship before. She had been in, I think, 4. And so she had a lot more experience with guys, like a lot more. Like she knew what they liked, like how to flirt, how to do this and that. I was awkward. I was the theater D&D nerd for years. Like, so I was not that girl that knew that kind of stuff, you know? I just started to blossom and bloom looks wise after losing weight, and that was right after COVID hit. And I went to college the year after COVID hit, so that should tell you how recent all of that was for me. And even now, it's still really recent for me. But I remember there was a point in time where I started to change myself into her. Like I started to dress like her, wear the hairstyle she wore, try to mimic her like mannerisms, her slang, all that kind of stuff, just to kind of be like her, I guess. But then there was one guy who actually did like me a lot, and I couldn't tell. But I remember thinking, oh, he wouldn't go for me, he would go for her. Then he went for me. And this was when I had kind of stopped trying to be like her, because at that point we had kind of started to grow apart. She like left our school, and he came forward about how he like felt about me. And I was like, oh, I thought you liked her. And he was like, no, she's just not for me. And I remember being shocked because I was so used to being the opposite way. Like I was always the like friend that guys would come up to me to ask for her phone number. Like I'm sure you guys have experienced that at some point, man, woman, like it doesn't matter. But it's kind of hurtful when you're like, why am I not getting the attention? And yeah, and then I remember asking, I can't remember who it was a person, like I know it was some guy, but I remember I had asked because he was talking about her and she like turned him down. And I like asked this out of like the most saddest part of my life. I was like, why is it that people choose her and not me? And he like said straight up, he said, there's nothing wrong with you. She just seems easier to be with. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, easier to get with. You know what I mean? I was like, no, I just don't know what you're talking about. He was like, easier to sleep with. She just seems easier to sleep with. And I was like, that's not a compliment. They're like, no, but it's just easier. Like we're in college right now. We're just trying to have fun. And I was like, is she sleeping with you guys? And they were like, a few of us. And I was like, because, right. And I was like, being yourself, because, and that story isn't to shame her. No. That story is to say, you don't know, like the right people will appreciate you. She was being herself, but she also had to do certain favors in order to receive favor from these people and these guys. And I was just like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that. I'll just settle for having less options. That's okay. Because I was like, oh no. And the thing about it was I didn't want the attention because I wanted the guys. No, I wanted the attention because I was tired of feeling like less than, you know what I mean? So I gave myself the freedom in taking the risk of being who I was. Then I started to attract the people that actually liked me for me. Friends, guys, it doesn't matter. I started to attract, people that liked me for me and not the persona I was faking that at some point I was not going to be able to keep up. And that is risky because let's say who you are isn't super trendy. Like for years and even now, like even though people want to pretend it is, not being, I guess, deeply enthralled in like hip hop culture, from the like nudity to the promiscuity, it's not popular. Like people want to say it is, oh, well, I actually prefer a girl. That's not who's getting the attention. That's not who guys are openly firstly seeking out. They'll seek you out later, but that's not really a compliment either. But be who you are. You'll attract the right people. And that is a risk, because it may, for a while, it feels lonely and it feels like you're not getting anything out of it. It feels like, oh, maybe I should have just stayed lying about who I was. And then the people start to flood in. And you'll actually thank yourself for being yourself and attracting the right people, as opposed to if you had this persona that soon enough you'd show who you really are, because who you really are always comes out unless you spend time changing yourself, which you're going to feel bad about when you look back on who you used to be and you realize, I kind of liked her better because she's more natural. Like there's a person recently who said, yeah, no, like back then you used to be super like charismatic. And I was like, am I not anymore? They're like, not really. And then I recalled that back then people always told me I was too out there and too bubbly, too much. And so I started to tone it down a little bit. And there was a lot of people prior to that who I'd known at that point in my life who loved that about me. Like they're like, no, I just like how you're so fun to be around. And I was like, oh, people said it was annoying. They're like, don't talk to them then. I was like, that was the obvious solution, but I went down the route of changing myself, which was really dumb of me. But the third risk that I want to say that is very good in life to take is the risk of not knowing. the risk of being new to something, which is you're going to be new to stuff. I was in high school for visual art, which you probably can't really see that very. I have more like art pieces like in my room that I've made myself, but for visual art and dance. Now I could sing, I love singing, but I wasn't trained in singing. That was just something I did for fun that I taught myself how to do because I grew up around soul music and all that stuff. I got to college and said, I want to do theater, and jumped into college as someone who had little to no theater experience and did very well. But for that portion, I had to be somebody who was taking the risk of not knowing anything, taking the risk of being new to something, which is, it can be very embarrassing when you're surrounded by people who are very much educated in the thing that you're going into. Like, especially if like in the arts or in some type of skill, you're new to it, which can be really scary, but it's actually the risk you have to take to become good, is to start off and be the newbie or be the rookie somewhere. You have to be that in order to become the like master. In order to become somebody who is an expert at something, you have to start off being new. And it's actually really, sometimes it can be scary, especially in environments where the people who are higher than you look down on you and treat you like a little kid. It's like, oh, you were where I was at one point, not too much. But yeah, the last thing I said that you should take a risk on is taking a risk at being wrong. So a lot of the things that stop people from making choices or going after stuff is the fear that it's not going to work out. But that's literally part of life. Like, people won't go and dive full on into relationships, into jobs, into careers, into hobbies, into things like YouTube and all that stuff because they're scared of, oh, what if I'm wrong, or like, and this isn't for me, or I'm not doing this the right way and this is the wrong way to do it, or what if I fail? And I'm like, you kind of have to go for it though, because what if you don't? Like, yeah, there's the whole what if this doesn't work out, but then there's the what if this does work out, and what if it goes amazing? Like, what if it becomes something you end up being able to turn into a full-time job, or something you end up really excelling in and making a name for yourself in? You wouldn't have known that had you not tried. There's a lot of stars and like artists who were taking a risk when they tried the thing that they're doing now. Andra Day was homeless, you know, she was taking a risk on everything by just like pursuing a career as a singer. Now she is an actress, a singer, she's all this stuff because of a risk she took. She probably sat there and thought, what if this isn't for me? What if I'm not going about this the right way? What if I'm doing this the wrong way? And she still did it, because that's part of life, is taking risk. And it's really hard. I mean, like, because humans have the fear of embarrassment. Humans have the fear of standing out. Humans have the fear of being wrong and like shame. But that's a part of life. Like, being wrong, making choices that are probably going to teach you something. But all of life is about learning and growing and being better than you were. Part of the human, like, one thing humans do very well is evolving. And you have to make mistakes and learn to evolve. So yeah, in short, or I guess to wrap that up, taking risks in life are vital for growth and for opening up opportunities for yourself, and to just always living life safely isn't always the best choice. It's smart to be wise about what you're doing. Now, don't go out and do stuff that you know is bad for you, like that you shouldn't be doing, but take risk and open yourself up to new opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise got if you stayed in your little bubble. Most people, that if you speak to people that are rich or successful, it started with a risk. So yeah, this is just about the importance of taking risk and putting yourself out there, because you'll never know till you try it. And if you fail, try again or take another risk. That one might work out for you. Just live your life. So that was my video, and I hope you have a good day.